Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Masters in Writing for Performance information session. Before we start, I just want to inform you that we are recording this session and it will be shared on the ICE YouTube channel, and the recording will also be sent to all of those people that have registered for the event after the session. My name's Lisa Hitch. I'm Academic Centre Coordinator at the Institute of Continuing Education, University of Cambridge, and we're also referred to as ICE. Today in the panel, we have Claire Bailey, who is a Joint Course Director, myself, Grant Watson, who is a Teaching Associate, Georgie Wedge, who is a Student Representative from the course, and we have Callie Cardines, who's from our enrolment team. Next slide, please. So this week, we've been running a variety of online sessions to give you the opportunity to find out about our master's courses at the Institute of Continuing Education. Course information sessions like this one, covering each course in our master's portfolio, have been taking place every evening. In addition to our live sessions, we also have additional video resources on our website, giving you further information on funding options, the application process, college matriculation, student support, and interview preparation. So if you missed any of our sessions or were unable to attend a previous session, then you can watch the recordings, which will be available on our website shortly after the events. Links to the events and resources are shared in the chat, and they'll also be sent via email after this session. Next slide, please. So ICE was established 150 years ago in 1873. We were the first university-led continuing education provider in the world. Today, we offer a wide range of courses to adult learners. These include short online courses, residential weekend courses, our international summer programme, award-bearing part-time undergraduate and postgraduate qualifications, and these cover a number of subjects from archaeology to genomic medicine. We also act as the admitting body for all of the MST courses within the University of Cambridge, with our students becoming members of a Cambridge college upon commencement of your course. ICE is a place where professional networks are formed, friendships are made, and the transformative power of learning is recognised. Next slide, please. So once you've accepted an offer with us, you'll become a member of a University of Cambridge college, which grants you the same level of support as a full-time University of Cambridge student. As well as having access to standard college resources, you will be allocated a college tutor who's responsible for your welfare, the pastoral support, and your college will confirm arrangements such as your university card, matriculation, and graduation events. We work with a number of different colleges across our MST courses, but for the MST in Writing for Performance, we partner with Wolfson, Selwyn, Lucy Cavendish, and St Edmunds. When you apply for the MST, you state a preference for one of these colleges. It's not normal that you'd be able to sort of choose another college unless you've been an undergraduate student with the University of Cambridge or have an affiliation with another college. And then we would expect you to approach them first to see if they would be willing to take you as an MST student, and then you could specify that on your application, and we would approach them as well if you were to receive an offer. If you would like to watch information about our colleges and partnerships and hear from them themselves, there'll be a link in the chat and you can watch the video that has information about our colleges. Next slide, please. So in today's session, we'll talk through what you can expect from the MST in Writing for Performance, including entry requirements, teaching style, module content, and the assessments. You will hear from one of our Writing for Performance students, Georgie Wedge, and at the end of the presentation, our enrolment team will take you through what kind of support we can provide you with during your application. We have time reserved at the end of the session to answer any of your questions, so please send us your question via the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen, and we will either answer them live in person or we will reply to you direct through the chat. So I'll now hand you over to my colleague Claire Bailey, who's the course director for the MST in Writing Performance, and Claire will talk you through a bit more information. Thanks, Matt. Next slide.
And hello, everybody. So the MST in Writing for Performance, it's designed for postgrad students who want to develop high-level theoretical skills. It's very practically oriented. So by the end of it, you will come out with a full-length script, which you can use as a spec script. A vibrant and innovative creative practice within writing for a wide range of performance mediums. So we recognize that in the industry as it is today, it's very rare that you will just be a playwright or just be a screenwriter. You'll tend to want to write sometimes for the screen, sometimes for the stage, sometimes do audio drama. So we want to give you an experience of all those different forms, so that when you go out into your career, or you will have a sort of grounding in all those types of writing. The course is 2 years part-time, starting in October 2025, and you will, if you come on the course, you will then deliver your final piece of work on the 1st of July 2027. Over the course of the 2 years, you will submit 5 assessments, which includes the dissertation. I'll talk a bit more about this in the next slide. These take place over 5 very intense residential teaching blocks here in Cambridge. At the end of it, you get a Master of Studies qualification, and an all-important date, the 28th of February 2025, sorry, that's a mistake on the slide, is the deadline for applications this year. If you could give me the next slide, please. The academic team includes Yvonne Battle-Felton, who can't be here today, unfortunately, but she's our academic director. Myself and my colleague Fraser Grace, also a playwright, we are the joint course directors. And Grant, who's here on the call today, is our teaching associate. He's a poet, a screenwriter, a playwright, and a TV writer. We have 2 course tutors, who are Craig Baxter and Louise Salter. And we also work with our colleague in the English department, Dr. Jenny Babbage, who is a senior lecturer in the English department here. And she helps us very much with the more academic essay side of the course. Next slide, please. So the 2 years are quite different. In your first year, it's much more of a taught master's with these 4 residential modules, each one focusing on a different form of writing, whether that's theatre, writing for TV, writing for screen, film, or writing for audio. Our residentials take place over 4 days in Cambridge, and during that time you will have lectures, seminars, workshops, industry panels, Q&As with leading writers, and also one-to-one tutorials over the course of the year. So we have these modules, they happen in October, and then the next one's in January, and then in March, and then in late May or June, depending on how the calendar falls. In terms of assessments, after each module, you submit 2 pieces of work. One is a critical essay, and one is a piece of creative work. The critical essays are summatively marked. That means that the mark counts towards your final degree. And the creative work is formatively marked, which means it doesn't count towards the final degree. And that might sound sort of counterintuitive to you, but the point of doing that from our point of view is that we really encourage you to be experimental in your creative work. We don't want you to be playing it safe when you submit a piece of creative work because you want to get a good mark. We think that the best writing comes from being brave and bold and experimental and trying out something which may not work, but you will definitely learn something along the way. So that's why in year 1, all the creative work is formatively marked. So you get feedback, you get a grade, but it doesn't ultimately count towards the final degree. Can I have the next slide, please? This is the part of the timetable for the first module that we've just had a couple of weeks ago, just to give you a little bit of a sense of the stuff we cover. So you can see that we have a sort of Monday, there's a sort of slightly more theoretical lecture given by Fraser about the theory of writing for performance, followed by a stand-up comedy workshop, which is, you know, straight in at the deep end, which I think Georgie might talk about later. We then have a mixture of craft sessions. So Fraser talking about dramatic action, Rick Harvey talking about the 3-act structure in film, Lynn Coughlin, who's a lovely playwright and screenwriter, talking about dialogue. I do a session on scene structure. Then we have a more academic side. Zoe Svensson, a Cambridge colleague here who's worked with High Tide Theatre and the University of Cambridge to develop a kind of a paper on climate dramaturgy, which is a really interesting session. Then we invited in the screenwriter and playwright and novelist Corsia Newland, who worked on small acts. And we did a Q&A with him, which was really lovely. He was very generous in talking about his processes and how he got to do the kind of lovely work that he does today. And then in every module, we spend the final day really kind of workshopping the work. So we go into smaller groups. We do peer review kind of feedback led by Fraser, myself, and our 2 tutors. That's in module 1. As the modules progress, then we bring in directors, actors, and you kind of workshop increasingly with people who are industry specialists in their field. And then every module also has an industry panel of people. In this case, it was really sort of Cambridge people, how to get involved with theatre in Cambridge. But so on our audio drama module, we'll bring in producers and directors and people who work for the BBC to give you an idea of how to sort of get involved in the industry, how to get started. Brilliant. So next slide, please. So it's for the first year assessment, that's 40% of your final mark. Modules 1 to 3, you get this formative 10 pages of script, and the summative, the critical essay or commentary, which is 3,000 words for the first 3 modules. And in module 4, you do one longer 20-page creative piece, which is then, that is summatively marked. Brilliant. Next slide, please. In year 2, it's a very different picture. At that point, by then, we reckon that you've tried out many different forms of writing, you've experimented, you've played around, and now you're ready to decide exactly a sort of an extended piece of work that will keep you going really for the whole of the second year. So once you've decided what that is and what kind of writing it is, then we will match you up with a supervisor. And you will have 5 one-to-one hour-long supervisions with that person who is an industry person, a writer or a director, over the course of the second year. In the middle of that, around April time, we have a kind of work in progress workshop using actors and directors, again, specialists in the type of writing that you're doing. Culminate. So we have a day of workshopping and then a day of sharing of work in front of a very, very small invited audience. And the idea is that you're testing your script against actors, against directors, and against a small audience. And that will help you then to rewrite in time for the submission of your full-length script, plus your critical commentary at the beginning of July. Next slide, please. So this is just the timetable for last year's sharing of work event, which was the April event in year 2. You can see that we split it into according to how many students are doing theatre plays or films or TV. Normally, we also have a radio drama or an audio drama section as well. And then we have a small panel discussion chaired by myself or Fraser or one of our tutors. And then at the end, we invite industry folk along to sort of comment on the work and answer your questions, really, and just sort of, again, making connections for the industry for later in your career. And then we finish with a few drinks and canapes as a celebration. Next slide, please. So the final submission is a 90-page script plus a 5,000-word critical commentary. That counts as 60% of the final mark for your master's degree. Thank you. And next slide. Great. So at this point, and I'm sure there will be questions later, but at this point, let me hand over to Georgina Wedge. Georgie, I hope you don't mind us calling you Georgie on the slide, who graduated in 2023 and is here to just tell you a bit about her experience of the course and what she's gone on to do since. Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, so my going into the course, I didn't really know what to expect. I'd been working a few years in the industry, but on the sort of marketing communication side, I was doing TV publicity, and in my job, I was reading some scripts, and it really occurred to me that I wanted to write. It felt like it was something I'd known all along, but it only really sort of come out as I'd spent a few years in the working world. And yeah, I applied to the course. It really appealed to me because it had that mixture of the theoretical practice as well as the creative side of experimenting with different genres. I really liked the idea that I could try audio drama and I could try TV and film, and we even did modules for writing for video games. I felt like having that multidisciplinary approach was going to be really helpful for me as I discovered my voice as a writer, as I did feel quite new to it. And yeah, I had a great time on the course. We had a lovely cohort of people. We were all very different. We all had very different backgrounds and different perspectives, and we all had slightly different interests in what we were looking to write. And one thing that I think I really took away from it is coming out at a completely different place to what I thought I would end up doing. My journey is still ongoing. I'm still working towards a lot of stuff in the writing world, but I came in dead set of this is the kind of thing I want to write. And during the course, I experimented. I got into sort of combination of stand-up and poetry, and I ended up writing a one-woman show that combined lots of different elements, and I ended up taking it to the Fringe, which is something I never thought I would do. And Claire actually came along to my London preview, which was very lovely to see her there. So, and I'm still developing that show. I've had a couple of offers to put it on in London, and potentially we'll try and tour it. So yeah, that's all to say that I wouldn't have done something like that had I not had the experience of working with a really collaborative, fantastic group of people, from the students to the teachers. I had a great supervisor as well, who was super supportive. Again, she was someone that had a very different, she'd mainly worked in horror, but that was the kind of, I wanted to be able to combine different expertise and knowledge and sort of throw it all together and really explore who I was in the course. Anyway, sorry, I hope I'm not waffling too much, but that's me in a nutshell. Obviously, I'll happily answer any questions on more specific things when we come to that.
Matt, can I just jump in very quickly at this point back again and just say that, it's what Georgie says about the sort of diversity of our cohorts is very, very much something I'd like to emphasize, that we relish the prospect of having a really mixed cohort, both in terms of age, gender, background, experience as well. Because we're an Institute of Continuing Education, we love people who have great stories to tell, and it doesn't matter how they got to that point, but we just want to hear people's stories, and we want to give them the tools to tell them in the best possible way. So that is one of the things that we love about the course, and when we're choosing our students, that we want to see as big a range as possible, backgrounds and experience.
Okay, thanks very much, Claire. So I'll just quickly talk you through the application process. So you'll be required to supply 2 references. Ideally, they are academic references, but if not, if you've been out of academia for a little while, it's not a problem. What we would ask is if it could be somebody who can actually comment on your writing, so that we can have an idea of something kind of from them. You're also asked to provide a CV. Now, we often get asked whether this should be your work CV or your writing CV. In an ideal world, we'd ask for like a hybrid kind of CV, so that the course directors can see what you have been doing, sort of creative writingly wise, but also from a work point of view, because it does help our admissions team hugely when they are determining your fee status. If we can't easily see that you have been a permanent resident in the UK for 3 years, unfortunately, they have to assess you as an overseas fee until you can provide us with evidence. So evidence of your working history is absolutely sort of perfect and ideal. You're also required to upload your transcripts. Entry for the course is a 2-1, but if you don't have a 2-1, please don't worry. We can accept non-standard applicants. So that means maybe somebody who has never studied at a university level before, so doesn't have a degree, but has a wealth of experience in writing for performance, and you're very welcome on the course. We take everybody. We just have to do a bit of extra work in the background, but that's not a problem. We are more than happy to do that. So please don't be put off by not having a 2-1. You're also required to do your research proposal. That just gives Claire, Grant and Fraser an idea of where you're going sort of in year 2, so that they can see that you have a focus, you have something in mind, and you know, that they can see that there's something that they can work with there with you and take that forward. And then of course your writing sample, most importantly, 10 pages of original script. Next slide, please. So for your application, you are required to pay a £50 application fee. There is a link in the chat, because subject to certain waiver criteria, this can be waived. So please do check that out in case you are eligible not to pay the application fee. If you become a member of the course, or you would be eligible for disabled student support allowance. The course is also eligible for the PG Masters loans, LCAS, which is support for members of the armed forces, service leavers and veterans. For our overseas American students, a lot of them apply for Sallie Mae loans, and that's perfectly acceptable. You know, our course will qualify for that. And we also have a Joy Brandon bursary, which was set up by a previous student on the MST in creative writing. Now, this allows for up to an 80% fee reduction, and we are just waiting for confirmation that this will be offered for the 2025 course. So please don't worry if you submit an application and you're not able to do the bursary. The bursary application is completely separate. So you would submit your normal application for the MST, and then you would submit a separate application for the Joy Brandon bursary. So anybody who has submitted an application or has an application in the pipeline, as soon as we hear about the bursary, we would contact you and let you know that that is up and running and you can apply for that. Next slide, please. And this one I'll hand over to Callie, and Callie will tell you a little bit about the support that the enrolment team can give you.
Thanks, Lisa. Good evening, everybody. I hope you found the session informative so far. So as Lisa mentioned, my name's Callie and I sit within the student enrolment team here at the Institute, and we can support you in a number of different ways, right from the start of you deciding what course it is that you're interested in. So if you're still trying to do a little bit of digging to find out whether actually this is the right course for you, please do get in touch with us and we'd be happy to have a conversation with you around kind of what your aspirations are off the back of the course, and actually whether this is the course that would be a best fit for you. When it comes to selecting the course that you're interested in applying for, we can support you all the way through that application process. So whether you have any questions on any of the parts of the application process that Lisa mentioned earlier, so whether it's anything to do with your writing sample, references, who you should be approaching, transcript queries, we can support with all of those elements of the application process. So please do reach out to us. We can you know, we answer all sorts of inquiries, so please don't be shy to approach us and ask. We don't think any question's a silly question, and actually we love speaking to students and prospective students. So yes, please do reach out to us and we'd be happy to help where we can. Lisa obviously mentioned on the last slide some funding opportunities that are available to students. So if you have any questions about them, the eligibility requirements for those funding pots, then please again do reach out and we'd be happy to have some discussions with you on those various topics. So there's a number of different ways that you can get in touch with us in the enrolment team. You can email us directly at questions@ice.cam.ac.uk. There is a QR code on the screen, so if you scan that, that will take you directly to our course inquiry form as well. Or if you're on the MSTM Writing for Performance course page on our website, if you hit the Ask a Question button, you'll come directly through to our team. So as I mentioned, we really will support with whatever question you have, however broad or you know, niche it is. Please do get in touch with us. If we can't answer it, we will be sure to find somebody who can, and either source that advice for you or point you in the right direction for it. So I think I will finish there and hand back over to Lisa, but hopefully we will hear from you all soon. And if you do have any questions, please do pop them in the Q&A chat this evening for the panelists, or as I said, get in touch with us via the options on the screen. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Callie. So we do have a few questions. I'll go the first one to Claire and Grant, please. So how many forms of writing can you study throughout the programme?
Great. Well, I'll start this off, but then I will hand over to Grant perhaps, because Grant is, I should have said earlier, is one of our supervisors. So he's very, he will answer any questions that you have about the second year and working with a supervisor and all of that kind of thing. So you can, so each of our 4 modules in the first year is specifically themed. The first one is kind of fundamentals, so we try and cover the sort of basic things that are common to all forms of dramatic writing. The second one is predominantly audio drama and comedy, so that includes a bit of stand-up and different kinds of podcasting drama, BBC radio drama, and I think that's kind of, oh yeah, but also in that it's also digital, other kinds of digital media, so that includes video game writing. We have a session on that. The third module is theatre and performance, so we cover a little bit of performance art. We cover possibly a little bit of spoken word, if there is demand for it. We can to some extent sort of kind of cater for the interests of the students, but that session is basically predominantly theatre, performance, and a little bit of spoken word. And then the fourth one is film and TV. So that's the sort of basic things that we cover. Grant, is there anything else you wanted to add about that?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. Claire, thank you.
Okay, thank you both very much. Another question for you. So is there any chance that the work students produce during the course can be read by directors or producers?
Grant?
Well, we actually we work with directors throughout the module, because you know, writing for performance is a collaborative process, and you need to be able to hear your words spoken by actors, and you need to see it directed by directors. So you will have a lot of access to performers and directors, and you'll also have access to producers who often sit on the panels during the residencies. So yes, I mean, one of the most important things about what we do is really kind of at the center of the course. It's about your work being presented to the people who are going to apply their imaginations to it to make it happen in the real world, in the real industry. And not only will you be working with directors and performers who'll be working on stage with your work, but you'll also be working with supervisors who come from that background. And not only are writers going to be your supervisors, but also there are producers and directors in that mix as well. So you will have plenty of access to those kinds of individuals. Claire, would you like to, and if there's anything you'd like to add?
I think that absolutely covers it. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much, both. Another question, which I think I can probably answer for you. So after I submit the application, how long does it take to receive a reply to know if I'm going to be called for an interview or not? So after you submit your application and after the closing date, we will acknowledge everybody and sort of say, thank you very much for submitting your application. And we try to give you a timeline then of what will happen. So after an application is submitted and after the closing deadline, Claire, Grant and Fraser will review the applications and will come up with a short list of students that they wish to interview. So the application closing date is the end of February. We would normally hope to then be holding interviews late in March or early April, and we will contact students as soon as we can to let you know whether you're called for interview. And then after interview, again, it's a process of which students are going to be accepted. We also often have a reserve list for the course, and the reserve list for the course, what we mean is students who would absolutely like on the course, but we've offered our maximum number of places. So we've offered 18 places, but if any of those were unable to take up their offer, we would then be offering to people on the waiting list. So we aim to have let people know probably by about mid to end of April. It really depends on when we can then have committee meetings to get that whole approval process done. So that's kind of the timeline for when you would hear. And as I say, we acknowledge everybody's applications and we let you know the timeline when we send that email out. Okay, a question for Claire and Grant. How much interaction will I get with other students on the course outside of residential teaching?
Well, I'll say something about that, but also I might pass over to Georgie as well. We very much encourage students to form their own kind of dramaturgical mini groups, have contact, keep in touch with each other by WhatsApp and in person sometimes, but if that's not possible, by Zoom. I have to say that our first cohort, who graduated in, must be, what would that be? I think that would be 2021. They are still meeting, a group of them are still meeting every week on Zoom. So they are kind of the gold standard of how they've kept in touch with each other. Of course, you're only resident 4 times a year. So it is up to the student cohorts to arrange staying in contact with each other. A lot of people do decide to move to Cambridge. If you can, that's a lovely thing to do, though obviously not everybody can. And so, you know, Georgie, what was your experience of this?
Yeah, I mean, we all are in a WhatsApp group from our cohort, and we chat quite regularly, and we sort of keep each other posted on opportunities that we see for writing, and invite each other to things that we're doing, whether that's putting on our own productions or workshopping things. I actually met up with a couple of my cohort the other day to ask their opinion on workshopping my script, and I'm meeting with some of them next week. The group I went to Edinburgh with to the Fringe Festival were people from my cohort who helped direct and produce my show. So yeah, I think there's loads of scope to keep in touch and work together outside of the course hours. A lot of my year did actually move to Cambridge and got quite involved in societies and college life. I stayed in London. I lived in London before and stayed there, and quite a few people were based in London as well. So that kind of made things quite easy. But then again, we did also have people who were international applicants, who we still kept in touch with very regularly, even though we weren't, close by, because, it's much easier to these days with Zoom and WhatsApp and whatever. So yeah, it's completely on your terms. But yeah, we've been really good at staying in touch.
Cool, perfect. Thank you, Georgie. Another quick question. Will you cover horror and psychological horror?
We are, do you mean in terms of film or theatre or audio? It might happen that we're not so much themed in terms of genre like that, but we sort of focus around the craft and the sort of performance mediums. So horror might well be on the menu, but that's something specific rather than one of the things that we will automatically be teaching.
Okay, thanks very much, Claire. Another question. I am an international applicant. Is there anything in my writing materials that I should make sure to include?
Can you just say that question again, Lisa?
So, I am an international applicant. Is there anything in my writing materials that I should make sure to include? So I don't know whether this refers to like your writing sample, which is the 10 pages of script, or whether, Claire, you'd want to sort of see anything else from an international applicant.
No, I think just send us a script that you're really excited about and that you feel showcases your writer's voice as best as possible and your kind of grasp of the form. And of course, we understand that you're applying to the course because you want to learn and you want to improve, but it's great for us to just see the kind of work that you're doing at the moment and how far along that journey to becoming a writer you already are.
Okay, thank you, Claire. And one more question. What is the average age range of the students on the programme?
Well, that's easy. I think on this module, our youngest person is 23 and our oldest person, I've been too delicate to ask, but they are in their mid-70s. And we generally get some in their early 20s, some in their 70s, and occasionally even late 70s, and sort of 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. So the range is the whole range.
Perfect. Thank you, Claire. I think we maybe have time to squeak in one more quick question. Who would be leading our lectures?
As you saw from the timetable that I briefly showed you, Fraser, Grant, and myself do some of the core teaching, but then we do invite in specialists in the field to do specific lectures on specific subjects. So they are a mixture of academics, writers, and industry people who will be giving you your lectures. I hope that helps. Do you want to follow up on that at all, or?
Okay, thanks, Claire. And just one last question. If I'm new to script writing, would I be able to submit a piece of prose from my creative writing undergraduate degree instead of 10 pages of script for the application?
I'm sorry, but the answer to that is no. It's such a different kind of writing that we really want to see whether you've got, it doesn't matter if you're very inexperienced, but we just want to see how you approach writing, dramatic writing. So I think you would be, we wouldn't be interested in seeing your prose. We want to see you having a go at doing some script writing for us.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Claire. So we're coming to the end of our session today. So thank you all very much for joining us this evening. We hope that you found this information session really informative. We'd love to hear your thoughts via our satisfaction survey, which will be emailed to you afterwards. So thank you all very much for joining this evening. And we look forward to potentially receiving an application from you and working with you in the future. Thank you.